Good afternoon. Welcome to CFP Board's webinar on the long-term value of CFP certification. Thanks for your time this afternoon. I want to go ahead and get started. My name is John Loper. I am a CFP. I'm also the Director of Corporate Relations here at CFP Board. Also joining me on the line is Isabelle Gonthier. She is our Director of Examinations. Isabelle, are you on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Isabelle, thanks so much for joining us. Isabelle will be covering more of those specifics later on in the presentation. We have a large number of individuals on the line with us today. Your line is muted. However, if you notice on your screen, you have a Q&A box. There will be time for Q&A there will be time at Q&A at the end of the presentation. But just to make sure that we're all connected, if I could have a few of you just ask me a sample question online to make sure we're all connected. Okay, we had somebody raise his hand. I had an individual ask me what the meaning of life was and that you're connected. All right, thank you so much. I'm getting some questions about me, so let me give you a little bit of my background, and I'll turn it over to Isabelle. The question I'm getting is, how long have I been a CFP? I've been a CFP since January of 2001, so we're coming up on 15 years for me. My history, my background, right out of college, I was a program manager in the Air Force. While I was in the Air Force, I got my MBA. And joined financial services right out of the Air Force. I spent 13 years as a producer and branch manager at Ameriprise Financial. I did a small stint at TIAA-CREF, and most recently I was a regional sales manager at Fidelity Investments. So I've worked for 3 firms that all support tremendously CFP certification, which we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation, but that's been very important to me and in my career. Isabelle, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your background with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Director of Examinations with the CFP Board, overseeing the development and administration of the exam here in the U.S., but also I oversee the program in Canada as well, so I have a dual role working with both organizations. And I've been involved with the financial planning Standard Council in Canada with the CFP Board as well, overall for combined almost 10 years now as a testing consultant and now as a Director of Examinations. So having worked with different programs, but now focusing my expertise in testing and assessment with the board.
Great. Thank you, Isabelle. And Isabelle spends her time, as she stated, she splits her time between our counterparts in Canada and here in the United States. As Director of Corporate Relations, I travel tremendously, meeting with member firms to increase the number of certified financial planners at financial services firms across the United States. But the CFP Board itself is based in Washington, D.C., and that was another question we got as well. So that's a little bit about who we are at CFP Board and our background. And so let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about the growing industry demand for CFPs. We are a 501(c) organization at CFP Board. And what does that mean? That means that we're a nonprofit. It means that we're here to serve the public. I tell my member firms all the time that if every individual who walks in, every prospect who sits down with a financial advisor, if the first question out of his or her mouth is, are you a CFP? Then we're doing our job at CFP Board. And so we're going to talk about how we do that and how we're getting the public awareness campaign, how that's been effective, and how the industry is demanding certification. For the individuals on the phone, you may be wondering, well, why should I get it? And we'll talk a little bit about that. How the CFP designation helps meet consumer demand. I've already alluded to how CFP Board is making consumers aware of our mark, and that's primarily through the public awareness campaign. Knowledge, productivity, and satisfaction gained through CFP certification. The bottom line is certified financial planner professionals are more productive. They do more business than non-CFPs, and we'll look at a chart that takes a look at that. And then satisfaction levels. Clients are more satisfied with CFP professionals. They have fewer complaints, overall higher client satisfaction. And then Isabelle is going to help and cover the path to CFP certification later in our presentation. So the growing demand for planners, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates we will need to educate and certify 27% more financial advisors by 2022 just to keep up with demand. With advisors retiring and too few recruits coming into the field, our workforce is projected to decrease by more than 18,000 advisors over the next 5 years. We have more CFPs over the age of 70 than we have under the age of 30. So think about that for a second. We have more over the age of 70 than under the age of 30. So that's a tremendous gap that we need to fill with increased demand for CFPs. There are almost 73,000 CFP professionals, but more talent is needed in an environment where consumers are demanding more. So why should I get CFP certification? One of the analogies I use a lot, think about for a second when you go see your doctor. Is your medical doctor board certified in his or her specialty? So if you're going to see a cardiologist, for example, is your cardiologist board certified in cardiology? Now that may seem like a stupid question because in the medical profession, for the most part, it's mandatory. In other words, if you're not certified in your particular specialty, it's going to be pretty difficult to get a job. In our industry and financial planning, not everyone is certified or has the CFP certification, that is. But that percentage, as we addressed, is increasing, and consumers are demanding it. It's increasingly seen as the yardstick for measuring the quality of advice. It has become the standard. Some refer to it as the gold standard, but we say the standard for financial planning. It has the most awareness and recognition when compared to other designations, and I have a slide later that's going to show that. And it provides an integrated, holistic view of client financial situations. Do you want a financial advisor who looks at investments? Do you want a financial advisor who looks at insurance? Do you want an advisor who looks at estate planning, or all of the above? And increasingly, more and more clients, more and more prospects are saying, I want a professional who takes a look at the entire picture. Our certification is knowledge-based, education and experience, plus a comprehensive exam, but it's more than knowledge-based. It's also application-based. Our CFPs have to know the information and then have to know how to apply the information in specific client situations. That's what makes the CFP certification so valuable. In addition, all CFPs adhere to and sign a professional standards and code of ethics agreement. We agree to abide in financial planning situations. We are fiduciaries. We hold our advice to the highest standard. And clients, as I've mentioned earlier, have greater satisfaction because of this, and advisors are more productive. Let's move on to the next slide. So what are consumers looking for in financial planning? Now this comes from, as you see on the bottom of this slide, we quote this a lot, the ORC survey from 2013. A large majority, 70%, prefer a financial advisor with the ability to look at the whole financial situation as opposed to one who specializes in a single area. And by single area, we mean maybe just an insurance agent, just a stockbroker, just an investment advisor, just a money manager. And most clients want to work, or as it says here, 70%, with somebody who takes a look at all of those areas. Roughly half of consumers, about 48%, look for strong knowledge of financial planning when choosing an advisor. and that knowledge, as we talked about, is included in certification. By far the most important type of certification demonstrates knowledge of multiple financial areas preferred by 68% compared to 21% who prefer specialized knowledge. Nearly 9 in 10 consumers, 87%, would feel more confident working with an advisor who has a financial planning designation. And we're going to show you in a second, when we ask these clients, which financial planning designation do you prefer, you'll see which ones they checked off that they prefer most. So since 2011, the preference for our certification has increased significantly, up 30 percentage points. So you see here, and this is from the Ipsos brand tracking study from this year, so this is recent data, 22% in 2011, up to 52% in 2015. We're not stopping there. As I said at the very beginning, we're not stopping until every individual who walks in, every prospect, every client asks the question, are you a CFP? Client awareness of CFP certification has also increased. Since 2011, unaided awareness of CFP certification has doubled. It's gone up 17 percentage points. And by unaided awareness, we mean we didn't give the individual a multiple choice, which of the following. We said, what certification will you look for in your financial planner? That's unaided awareness. And they volunteered CFP certification. Trustworthiness, up 26 percentage points from 2011, also from the Ipsos brand tracking study from this year. So trust in CFP certification has increased 26 percentage points over the past 5 years. So lots of alphabet soup out there, and so many people ask, well, how do clients know, how do prospects know which certification should they choose? And this is also from this year, 2015. CFP certification has more consumer awareness than other financial planning designations. So Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, when you're looking for a financial advisor and you're looking for someone who has a designation to help you with your financial planning, which one will you look for? 69% of the time, these clients chose our designation, CFP. And you can see some of the others that are listed here that you may recognize, and then others that may not be called out, and those other 5 are listed in the far right. So we're really happy about this consumer awareness, and in fact, in 2014, we saw a tremendous uptick in brand awareness from our public awareness campaign. As I just mentioned, the public awareness campaign, now in its 5th year, is the successful campaign to increase awareness of financial planning and the preference for certified financial planners. And off to the left here, you can see some of the images from the commercial that we've shown. And we've shown them on some pretty high-profile channels and high-profile events on television. Many people have seen them. We have ads online, television, print, and we are directing individuals. You can't see the fine print because the font is kind of small. But if you look to the right here, we're directing them to letsmakeaplan.org. And if the individual is looking for a CFP in their area, there's an opportunity, and you could try this on your own. If you go to letsmakeaplan.org and you look for an advisor, if you type in your zip code, it's going to show you a random sample of CFPs in that zip code. And I've personally had CFPs walk up to me at conferences and thank us for the clients they've gotten through the public awareness campaign. In our 5th year, we saw an increase in 6% in consumer awareness. Now, I'm not a marketing expert, but the marketing experts tell me that that increase is tremendous. So we're really excited, and we have no intentions of slowing it down. All right, productivity and success. You know, what's in it for me? Let's cover those slides. So the trusted advisor, we say, this is a Venn diagram here of what we call the 3 Cs. A CFP is credible, a CFP is confident, and a CFP is competent. And I often said I was never more confident in my ability to deliver advice and meet with a multimillionaire than I was the day after I passed my CFP. And other CFPs will tell you the same thing, that the knowledge is so broad, the information is so valuable that you either know the information or you know where to go to get the information after you get your CFP. And so we call that the 3 Cs. We talked earlier in the ORC study, and Cerulli talks a little about, so individuals prefer financial planning, and why are they preferring it? So here are some of the benefits for financial planning. Number one, it strengthens the advisor-customer relationship. You're better able to manage client expectations. It creates a stronger bond with clients by providing more services. It's stickier. In other words, if clients know that you're looking at both their investments and their insurance and helping them with tax planning and budgeting, they're more likely to stay and to be more satisfied. It provides an organized approach to the client review, so it's easy to meet with a client on an ongoing basis. It increases asset retention for the reasons I just mentioned. There are more referrals and sales leads, and it generates greater revenue per client. And I'll show you a few slides coming up that show you that CFPs generate more revenue than non-CFPs. And it identifies additional cross-selling opportunities, because if you're aware of multiple products and multiple opportunities as a CFP, that can also generate additional opportunities as well. So here are the slides I was talking about, and if you look at the headline across the top, CFP professionals are more productive in a team-based environment. This is from the ITE group study. That's our source at the bottom. And this takes a look, this is data provided by a top 50 U.S. financial services firm. And what this is taking a look at, across all team practices, if there's one individual on the team, if there's at least one CFP on the team, that team is going to write 39% more business than teams that don't have one. Practices with 2 advisors where one is the CFP, that business goes up by 30% as compared to those that don't have one. Practices with 3, 36%. And then the last one, where the lead advisor with 4 or more advisors is not, that is not as pronounced, but it's still larger. It's still larger anyway. So still important to have a CFP, and there are a few financial services firms that are actually requiring that every team have a credentialed advisor on it. So many firms are recognizing the value. CFP professionals are more productive than advisors with other credentials. And so this is taking a look at a survey, not at a particular firm, but across all advisors. So this is multiple advisors at multiple firms. And once again, we have the same outcome here. So across all advisors, those with CFPs are 80% more productive. Those with less than 10 years as an advisor with a CFP, 133% more productive. 10 or more years, those with a CFP are 80% more productive. So we saw the example in the previous slide at an individual company, and then on this particular slide, ITE took a survey of 515 advisors across multiple companies. Differences in solo practice revenue at a top U.S. financial services firm. The average is 40% across all years with that particular firm. In other words, individuals with a CFP produce 40% more than those without one. And so I think if you spend a few minutes with each of those slides, the data here is pretty compelling. In addition, CFPs show high satisfaction in the career. More than 9 out of 10 CFP professionals are very satisfied with their career choice. 91% of CFP professionals would recommend CFP certification to other financial professionals. I would be one of those individuals that highly recommends it. And 81% believe they have a competitive edge over financial planners who don't hold CFP certification. Once again, this is from the ITE group who did this study. So, assuming that you're with me and you see the value in certification, I'm going to turn over to Isabelle right now, who's going to walk us through the path to CFP certification. Isabelle?
Yes, thank you, John. So on the next slide here, what you see is some additional information about the CFP certification. And what's really important to note is that not all designations are equal. And the CFP designation is a very well-known, renowned, rigorous designation, and is as per what John was presenting. I think it's important to note that it's a great designation to consider in the practice in the financial industry, and there's various reasons for that, and obviously. There's the reasons that John presented, but here, if we're focusing more on the certification process itself, first of all, it's important to note that the designation here in the U.S. And the CFP Board has been in existence for 30 years, so we have a long and vetted history in the industry. We have very rigorous educational requirements where candidates to CFP certification are required to complete a financial planning program from a registered program that has been reviewed and approved by the CFP Board, and I'll talk a little bit more about it a bit later in the presentation. One other thing to look into as well is that it's not something that you just get overnight. There's some level of effort involved with it, but that's also part of the rigor of the designation. So it typically takes about, a little over a year, year and a half to 2 years, depending on what you do, which program you take, where you're at in your in terms of your progress in the industry. So it's something that requires effort, but it pays off down the road. It involves one of the key requirements as well to become a CFP professional is the successful completion of a comprehensive examination that covers all areas of financial planning. And as John was mentioning earlier as well, it's important to note that it's about knowing your financial planning elements and everything that has to do with that. But more than that, being able to apply that knowledge in real-life, client-based scenarios, and that's what the exam is about. There's also an experience requirement in order to become a CFP professional. You need 3 years of experience, and this experience has to be linked to the financial planning process. So there's really a match of what it involves to become a CFP professional within all of the requirements. As mentioned as well, there's the professional standards that are critical. There's the fitness standards that CFP professionals, before becoming CFP professionals, that has to be met. There's a code of ethics that's very rigorous. All of the CFP professionals have to agree to abide by the code of ethics. Once CFP professionals obtain the designation, then there's a requirement to maintain the designation and maintain the level of knowledge in terms of practicing financial planning. And that comes with continuing education requirements. So every 2 years, CFP professionals are required to do 30 hours of continuing education to make sure that competence is maintained. There's also the enforcement of standards. So because CFP professionals have to abide by the code of ethics, if there are issues, then there's a follow-up. There's enforcement in place to ensure that the designation maintains its status and it's being enforced on that front. The designation is a financial planning designation. It covers all of the areas of financial planning. So we're talking about the general principles of financial planning, insurance, estate, tax planning, retirement planning, investment planning, education planning. So it's an integrated designation, which is critical as well. And one thing that's important to note as well is that it's a very rigorous certification program, as I was mentioning earlier, and our program with the CFP Board is accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, which is the NCCA, which really shows the rigor of, because we're abiding by national standards for certification programs. So now if we go into a little bit more of the details around what it involves in terms of becoming a CFP professional, here we are looking at the 4 E's: education, examination, experience, and ethics. These are the cornerstone of what the certification program is all about. First one is education. So CFP professionals must develop their theoretical and practical knowledge by completing a comprehensive course of study at a college or university that offers a financial planning curriculum that is approved by the CFP Board. There's programs across the country, and that's the first step in the process of becoming certified as a financial planner. Then there's the examination. So it's a comprehensive and rigorous exam. It's testing the knowledge and the application of the knowledge in different financial planning situations with different types of clients, really looking at the integration of that knowledge in financial planning. It's a 6-hour exam. It's computer-based. It's administered 3 times a year across the U.S., so in March, July, and November. And it's not necessarily an easy examination, but it's important to be well prepared in order to be able to demonstrate that you have the knowledge and competence required to practice as a CFP professional in order to earn the designation. Once you've been successful on the examination, then you have to meet the experience requirement. And that's critical when we're talking about a professional certification program, is that, yes, you need to show that you have the education and the knowledge. Yes, you need to demonstrate that you meet that requirement by being successful on the exam. But more than that, you also have to demonstrate that you can perform and illustrate that knowledge in real life, and that's what the experience is for. So again, in order to meet the experience requirement, you need to demonstrate that you've been working in the industry, and it needs to link back to the financial planning process, and specifically, looking at completing those as a basic 3 years of experience, and it has to be related to delivering financial planning services to clients. And that is prior to, you have to be able to demonstrate that prior to being able to use the CFP certification trademarks. This is hands-on experience, and that guarantees that CFP professionals have practical financial planning knowledge. So as I was mentioning, it's about the practice. And then you make sure that you are able to deliver in a real-life setting. Then finally, ethics. The CFP credential has the higher standard in ethics. CFP professionals are obliged to uphold the principles of integrity, objectivity, competence, fairness, confidentiality, professionalism, and diligence as outlined in the CFP Board's Code of Ethics. Everyone is required to abide by the Code of Ethics, have to meet the fitness standards, and before becoming a CFP professional also have to go through a very comprehensive background check. So looking at these 4 E's, this is what constitutes the CFP certification program, and that's what makes it a valuable professional certification program. So we'll turn it back over to you, John, with the few pieces of information.
Excellent. Thank you, Isabelle. I want to make sure that we hit on education. I've gotten a few questions here online. In addition to the education courses that are required, a 4-year college degree is also required. I've gotten that question from a few individuals. I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that as well. So if there's anybody on the line who didn't complete college or has a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree is required not to pursue our certification, but ultimately to carry it. So I want to make sure that I clarified that. So this is the end of our presentation. I want to open it up to questions in a second. But if you want more information, everything you need to know is on the web at cfp.net. And as a reminder, cfp.net/getcertified is for individuals who are interested in pursuing certification. letsmakeaplan.org is the website for prospects interested in working with a CFP. you want to search for a CFP Board registered program in your area, cfp.net/programs. And whether or not they're in your area, most, as you can imagine, are online as well, so you can shop multiple CFP Board registered programs. Once you've completed the education requirement and want to apply to take our exam, there's the website for that. Isabelle talked about the ethics requirements. Those can be read here. If you happen to be a CFP and you're looking for a new career, or you're looking to hire a CFP, the CFP Board Career Center, which launched in January of this year, has been tremendously successful, and there's the web link for that. CFPs can create and update their account, and those who are pursuing CFP, let me clarify here, you can also create an account. You do not have to be a CFP to create an account. cfp.net/login. And then finally, if there are any questions that we don't answer for you today, there's no way we're going to be able to get to all the questions. Here's our 800 number that goes to Stakeholder Services, 1-800-487-1497. So what I'd like to do, it is 3:33. I want to open it up and give everybody on the line a few minutes if you'd like to type in a question, something that's on your mind after what we've covered today. And generally, when I've done these presentations in the past, there's generally a theme. I won't be able to, more than likely won't be able to get to all of them, but if I see some themes here, I'll make sure I try to answer that. And then once again, if we don't get to it, make sure you call Stakeholder Services, and that 800 number is listed here. So I'll go ahead and give everybody a few minutes if you want to go ahead and type in a question, and we'll be right back. And just as a reminder, to ask us a question, you type it in the Q&A, and then you hit submit. Well, Isabelle, there are no further questions. I guess we've been that thorough. I have a few individuals raising your hand. If you'd like to ask a question, please type it in, because raising your hand won't let me call on you. I just need you to type that in the Q&A box. I'm going to give everybody 2 more minutes. Maybe there's some individuals who are trying to ask me a question. While we're waiting for that, Isabelle, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Specifically, not necessarily, but again, I think that as per what I've presented, it's good if you want to have additional information. There's additional information about the program, the certification program that's available on the website, and then you can always call us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. There's a number of elements to consider. So definitely, and it's a very important thing to consider when you want to pursue that type of certification. So we're here to help.
Okay, several questions are coming in now. Pros and cons versus CFP versus MBA. Well, the MBA is a master's degree in business. A CFP is a certification. So I wouldn't really give you a pro versus a con. I would tell you that they're different. One is I have both, coincidentally. And I would tell you that the certification is probably more valuable to the industry than the MBA. And by the industry, I mean the financial planning industry. What licenses are required to carry the designation? Series 7, 65, 63, insurance. No licenses are required to carry the CFP. You just have to meet the requirements that we addressed today. Now, I will tell you, most financial advisors who do have the CFP also carry certain licenses, but those licenses would vary depending on the firm in which you're affiliated. So I have an individual asking me a question, and this is a good question because there may be others on the line. I have a BS in accounting from a 4-year school and a CPA designation. Will that be enough for the education requirement? Great question. So there are certain designations that allow you to opt out of our core classes, and for this individual, the CPA is one of them. Notice I said core classes. There's a capstone course, which is also required. So as a CPA, you would opt out of the core curriculum, but you would still have to take the capstone class, but that would get you out of 90% of the education. Once you pass the CFP, how long do you have to meet the 3-year education requirement? And that's a great question too, because let's say, for example, your job, half of your job may only be doing financial planning, so it may take you 6 years. So there's not a limit necessarily on how long it takes you. We're not going to hold you to the 3 years, but certainly most people meet that experience requirement, 5 to 7 years. Cost of the CFP program is going to be based on the education program that you choose. But if you're asking what is the cost for our exam right now, our exam is $595. Do you have a list of schools that you would recommend? The slide that's up right now, second bullet, we don't recommend a particular program per se, but you certainly can look at cfp.net/programs. There's an individual asking us, what is the difference between the CHFC and the CFP? Well, one big difference is the CFP is we require a comprehensive exam where the CHFC does not. In other words, once you finish individual classes. The other big difference, as I mentioned in one of the slides, is recognition. We have a broader, brand recognition among consumers. One other question, what college degree is required? No specific college degree is required. I can tell you that my Bachelor of Science is in electrical engineering, so really not necessarily a great fit for what I do today. But a 4-year degree from an accredited university is required. Let me take a few minutes to read a few more of these questions. All right, here's several here. Cost, what licenses? Here's a question about a prep exam or a prep course. Are there prep exams that are prior to the main test? And the answer to that is yes. I strongly recommend, it's not required that you take a prep course to get ready for our exam. There's also a link for that one, previewcourses.net. And ask around at your various firms. I'm sure you can find somebody who's going to recommend a good review course. What are the annual CE requirements? So we don't have annual CE requirements. We have every 2 years, 30 credits are required, 2 of which must be in ethics. How much is the CFP course in total, roughly? I'm getting several questions about cost. I can tell you from my experience, and don't hold me to this because we don't sell education here, but if each course is approximately $1,000, you're talking $5,000 to $7,000 to pursue the CFP. If you do it in person, if you do a live instructor, it could be more. I do know that some of the online programs will, if you buy the bundled course, will give you a substantial discount. So instead of paying that $7,000, it might be closer to $4,800. Can this all be done online? The answer is yes. And for busy professionals, many do prefer it. And one of the other common questions I get is, do you recommend online versus in-person? And first thing you want to do is check out, do you even have an in-person program in your area? And if you do, my answer to that question is you should pursue the program that will increase the likelihood that you finish. Some people study better face-to-face, some do better online. That's really going to be up to you. How many courses are there total? Depending on the program that you choose, there's usually 5 or 6 core courses and then the capstone alternative. The capstone course. And I'm being reminded here that the individual earlier that I mentioned that had the CPA that could challenge the core classes. If you also do financial planning as part of your business right now, and you can provide us with an actual financial plan that you've done for a client, you may also be able to opt out of our final class. You'd be providing us with an actual financial plan, comprehensive plan that you've done for a client, obviously blacking the names out, and that potentially could get you out of our last class as well. Would you recommend an intern in college as a senior to begin working toward their CFP? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing, too, is if there are any college students on the line who finish with the requirements, sometimes some CFP board programs say you should get some you should get some experience before you take our exam, and I disagree with that. I think you should take the exam as soon as you're ready. Okay. Let's read a couple more of these, and then we will close it up. Does the financial plan for the capstone course only apply to CPAs? The answer to that is no. That applies to any of the other designations or that have also challenged our core curriculum. And that can be found under challenge status on CFP.net. All right. So I want to thank everybody. It's 3:45. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attendance. I appreciate your great questions. Once again, I left this last slide up on certification. If you have any other additional questions that we haven't answered, please call us at 1-800-487-1497. And with that, we stand adjourned. Everybody have a wonderful holiday season.